What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at, yet again, slug shotguns in Warzone, and specifically I'm going to go over 3 of the shotguns that have slugs that could ultimately be kind of in the meta. I say kind of very loosely because they're still very hard to use, but out of all the slug shotguns, I think there's 6 in total now. There are a few that I would say are the strongest, that are the ones that you could probably make work if you're an average player. Maybe it's still going to be really hard, but these are the ones that are strong and a good player can make work relatively well, I think. And so we're going to go over just the top 3, my picks for the 3 best slug shotguns that I think most people should at least try out and see how they work and see how good they can do with them. Starting with number 3, and as I go up to number 1, 1 is going to be, in my opinion, probably the strongest and the most accessible for most players, whereas 3 still going to be strong, but it's going to take a little bit more skill to use, in my opinion. First off, we have the 725, or it's more correct way to call it, the 7 1/4. This gun has a special place in my heart for a few reasons. If you check out my Twitter page, you'll see the pinned tweet I have is about this gun and how bonkers it can be. Now with the 725, headshots and chest shots have virtually no real drop off or damage. Certainly not a huge one. I think they might have 1 damage range drop off that's so minimal though. And because of this, chest shots have virtually any range, will usually be a 2-shot kill, and headshots will always be a 1-shot kill. This is where the 725 shines. Now, unlike any other slug shotgun, the 725 is the only one that can headshot and 1-shot kill past 5 meters or so. This makes for some hilarious encounters with unsuspecting players when you take a sawed-off 725 and shoot them in the face from 100 meters away and their heads explode. Now, while this does sound awesome, and it certainly is, it most definitely is really difficult to use well and competitively. Sure, you can make the 1-taps work, but 2 shots and then having to reload means you can get put in some seriously sticky situations, especially up close. Funny enough, this gun is kind of difficult at closer ranges, I found, and I tend to hit my shots more at medium-ish ranges. Now, because of the nature of slugs, they tend to veer off from where you're aiming, and they have a slower muzzle velocity than most guns, so they take quite a bit of skill to work well, I think. Now, when I use this gun, I almost always use the sawed-off barrel, simply because even though it hurts your slug spread a bit, at the ranges I use it, it keeps me insanely fast and mobile, and I can whiz around the map and headshot people, and no, it doesn't really affect your 1-shot capabilities at all. It's not really an ideal build for super long range precision, but I would say you can stick to medium range for this gun and build, especially if you use a sawed-off barrel. Now, if you want the essential slug shotgun experience with tremendous stopping power and 1-shot kill ability, this is the obvious choice in Warzone, until the other slug shotguns get a little bit more love, if ever, specifically the pump actions. Now, if you want my preferred class, use the sawed-off barrel, the sawed-off stock, 5mm laser, slugs, and sleight of hand. This is going to keep you really mobile, really quick, and you can aim down sights insanely fast and pop people's heads off. So because of the insane stopping power headshots this thing has, and because of how difficult it can be to run well, I put the 7 1/4 into my number 3 spot. Up next, for number 2 on the list, we have the Origin 12. If you thought I was going to put the 680 or the Rogue, you are out of your mind, my friend. Now, the Origin 12 is a happy medium between the precision slug shotguns and the Jak 12 spammy full auto slugs. Now, unlike the Jak 12, the Origin 12 can 1-shot headshot in its max effective range, which isn't much. It's maybe about 2 meters or so. It's very, very small. And unlike the Jak 12, it can also 2-tap to stomach and chest at further distances. By the way, if you want a breakdown of the stats for each of the slug shotguns, be sure to check out my channel because I broke down every slug shotgun and covered what makes each of them so special, so I won't be going in depth with these stats in this video. But the Origin 12 has some pretty impressive stopping power with the ability to 2-tap stomach and up to at least 8 meters with no attachments and up to at least 25 meters with no attachments. Now, while the power is good, you have to be mindful of the fact that you only get 8 shots. Ultimately, this is painful, but good players can manage, and if you want, you can always save a spot for sleight of hand in your setup. Also, the iron sights are pretty bad for precision shots on this gun, so a sight or an optic does help, but it isn't really needed 100% of course. I usually prefer no optic so I can use other attachments. If you want my preferred build for this gun, use Slugs, the 5mm laser, the monolithic suppressor for a tiny bit more range, stippled grip tape, and the Merc foregrip. Recoil can be an issue, so I use an attachment to help with that, hence the Merc foregrip, and also I don't run a barrel because the range is already pretty decent and I don't want to slow my aim down sights time by too much. Overall, this is a sleeper setup, and you can make it work with some patience and determination, but because of its fast fire rate and ability to two-shot players, they will go down in about 240 milliseconds with the time to kill, which is insanely fast, but also insanely difficult to pull off consistently, so be warned. Most times it'll take you about 3 shots at least. And while this was a close call, the number 1 spot is one that most of you probably saw coming from a mile away. So for my number 1 pick for the shotgun that has the most potential to be quote-unquote meta, we have the JAK-12. Yep, you probably guessed it and saw it coming from so far away. With the super fast fire rate and the ability to two-tap players up to 17 meters with chest shots and no attachments, this thing can absolutely break people down and will really catch people off guard. With a fire rate of about 300 rounds per minute and a 2-shot capability, the time to kill is insanely fast at around 200 milliseconds, which is just kind of bananas and one of the fastest in Warzone currently. But time to kill, as I say, isn't everything, and with Slugs, again, this is very hard to make work well and consistently. The amount of skill Slugs take is pretty large. They have a steep learning curve, and even then, you miss a few shots and you're dead. But the JAK-12, if you can hit those shots, if you can control that recoil, this thing is from another planet. Now, what keeps it from truly being a meta gun is its difficulty of use, but at medium ranges, this thing is just bananas. It can't one-tap players no matter what, but the two-tap is amazing for a shotgun, so I really recommend trying this out and try to stick to that medium-ish range. If you want my setup, try using the Marauder suppressor, Slugs of course, the 5mm laser, Merc foregrip, and the stippled grip. The Marauder for the shotguns that have it, which is the 680 and the VLK Rogue and the JAK-12, it really helps bullet velocity, which is essential for Slugs because of how slow they are, so I always run it for the ones that have it. It also helps range by the most out of any other attachments that have it, but it does hurt your aim down sight speed and movement speed as well by a good bit. Now, the stippled grip can be changed for an optic if you want, or you could even use a barrel if you really wanted more range, but the range from the Marauder and Slugs on their own is already good enough in my opinion. So there you have it, my friends, my pick for the potential meta Slug shotguns. Sadly, the R90, VLK Rogue, and the Model 680 just don't have the means to be super viable, and a lot of people are really going to struggle with those in particular. Sure, they work in niche situations, as do my top 3, but these are really rough to use and can be pretty hard to work with. I used them in Plunder and was having a hard time, and Plunder is a different beast than Warzone, but I just don't recommend those for competitive playing, but if you want to have fun, definitely go check them out. Now, the R90 is definitely the runner-up here though compared to the others, followed by the 680 and then the Rogue. I hate Slugs on the VLK Rogue with a passion, but I've already made a video on that, so go check it out if you want to see. Hopefully, these other shotguns can get some headshot damage buffs or some range buffs with Slugs, but for now, the 3 I mentioned are the ones to check out most of all. I'm still saying go check out the others, but with these in particular, these are probably the ones you want to check out first. And that is just about going to do it for this video, guys. So as always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of my list? Do you agree with my number 1 pick? Do you agree with 2 and 3? Do you think I'm kind of overlooking the other shotguns? But I want to know specifically, what do you think? And do you think that these shotguns with Slugs need a little bit of a buff? Because honestly, I could see them using a slight buff in some situations. More specifically, headshot damage, I think that needs to be bumped up a little bit to a certain range. But with all that being said, let me know. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. Leave a like on the video if you can. It really helps, and I really do appreciate it. And with all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next video.